So the other day, a viewer, Tanya, posted this comment in a video in the business series that I've been doing, asking about how to ship things. And there's two questions here. One is how to package things safely, and the other is how to save money on shipping. Now, the money saving on shipping, I can't really do much about, but in this video, we can cover how to build custom packaging that will ensure that anything you ship will arrive safely and at the same time promote your brand and create happy customers. And that's really what it's all about for most of us. So with that, let's get going. How's it going, everybody? Steve here. Welcome back to the shop. As I mentioned in the lead-in, Tanya was looking for a couple of ideas on both how to securely ship things and how to save costs. Now, the cost thing is regional and it will vary from shipper to shipper, so we can't really talk too much about that. You just kind of have to hunt around and find the best deal. But as far as packaging goes, I tend to make things that are custom packaging, and a user will get something that looks like this with a logo on the front, and they can just open it up and the item is inside safe and sound. And the way I do that is I typically take the outline. Since I design almost everything I ship, I have all of the SVG files, and I can create an exact outline of that shape and make whatever item I'm shipping fit perfectly tight inside a cardboard protection. And you could also use polyethylene foam. You've seen that white foam or black foam sometimes, closed cell, and you can cut that with your laser as well. So it's really up to you. I just get a lot of cardboard because I get a lot of shipping boxes, and I really hate to throw things into landfills or hope for the best in a recycling program. So this way, at least I know it's getting at least a second use. So with that, let's get going, and I'll show you how I build a shipping box for something like this, which is kind of weird edges. It's very odd shaped, but you can ship it and it won't rattle around. It will be perfect when it arrives at the other end. So let's get going. All right, so I hopped into Inkscape here, and what I'll show you is I have 4 layers here, and the top layer is really just a square, in this case a square, and I put my thank you and my logo on the top. The item layer, which I arbitrarily call the item layer here, is the outline of the clock, and the movement layer is the back with the hole for the clock movement, and then there's the bottom layer, which is just a straight square in this case. So top layer, not surprisingly, looks kind of boring. I actually left a hole in the top here, and I probably didn't need to in the case of a clock, but I just didn't want the clock movement touching anything, so I just left the hole there. The clock movement won't stick out the top. And of course, if I zoom in here, you'll see a kind of a standard thank you notice with my website. So that's the first kind of experience that the user sees. The item layer is really the outline of the clock. And in this case, what I can do is I don't need all of the bits and pieces, the actual outline for the clock, or the 12 rather. So what I can do is I can actually delete pieces of this. I'll turn this into a straight line of some sort, and then the number will fit in there. I could also get rid of, in this case, I got rid of the circle for the 9 and the 6. The 3 is pretty much straightforward as it is. So there you go. And now the clock itself will fit directly into that. The next layer is the movement layer. The rectangle in the center here is for the movement. All of these holes are really just to lighten up the material, so we're not shipping dead weight. And then in the case of this bottom piece, there's a slot in the middle here. This is where in the case of this clock, I typically wrap up the hands in foam, and I stick them in here. This thing will be quite a few, well, it'll be half an inch thick maybe, so the hands will fit inside. And then the bottom layer is just a square, as I mentioned. So that's the layers. I'll cut them out. Now, I typically, in the case of this clock, I'll need 2 or 3 pieces like this, a couple of pieces like the clock movement, and I'll just glue them together and tape them up, and we're finished. So it's really quite simple. Okay, so as I mentioned, I wanted to start with something unusual, so I picked a clock that I built. This is actually my personal one. You'll see it's actually quite scratched. I'm not gonna ship it to anybody. So what I did was I cut out a bunch of parts for this thing. Now you could use polyethylene foam. I just use cardboard because I have lots of it from shipments, and you get a nice finished job when you're done. So I already previously glued one of these. Grab some glue. Now the beauty of doing it this way is you don't actually have to wait for anything to dry. So we can just blob a bunch of glue on here, and this is just standard white glue. There's nothing. And plunk our next piece on top. The glue here. So as part of this, this is the bottom piece, and this square is designed to hold the clock movement. So again, what I want to do is just glue it. So I'll flip it over to the back here, and I'll do the same thing. And just square it up. And we could put some weight on that and let it sit for half an hour or so. But that's the bottom piece. Now we also have the top piece. Now, I mentioned what I did was I literally just cut the outline of the clock from my clock design. So I know this is an exact fit. I cut out a few pieces here and there because I won't need them. And what this ensures is that there is no way the clock inside the box is going to move. So again, we can just throw a bit of glue in it, and then you'll see if I were to drop the clock in here, you would see it's actually a perfect fit, and it won't go down because of the clock movement, but you can just fits in there perfectly. So if you want kind of safety in packaging, this is one way to do it. Now, I also have, with anything I ship, I usually provide some kind of logo. And in this case, what I did was I put a logo and just a thank you message. And we'll just drop that on top. And again, sandwich it together. And there's our packaging. And you can make these in advance. You don't have to, make one at a time. If you just want scale, you can make 50 of these if you sell a lot of clocks. So when we drop this in, we just sandwich it in there. And we may have to jiggle it around here a bit it's probably easier to put the clock in first, upside down. And then we put this piece on top. And in the case of my design here, there is an actual up and down to this box. So I guess it was right. So there you go. And now all I do is just tape the two sides, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll just fold over the end, and I can put a open here kind of message on the side. And I'll take this, and you can see we can rattle it around pretty much, and it's not going to move at all. And I'll take this and then put it inside of a standard shipping box. So this can take quite a bit of abuse. And that's all we have. So it's actually quite easy. It's a good way to recycle some cardboard. When people get it, they can just open it up and get a nice experience when they take it out of the box. In the case of this one, you might want to put a little tolerance in the frame here. But so there we go. And hopefully that inspires you to do a few things. Okay, now the last step here is we have to ship it. And so I have a box. I'll take a couple pieces of bubble wrap, put in there, and I'll take my item. Make sure you have all of the pieces of your item in there. In the case of a clock, there's hands as well. I didn't put them in here because I'm not actually going to ship this one. And then a bit more bubble wrap to make sure that the sides can't move around. Close her up, tape it, put a label on it, and ship it. And it's as simple as that. Okay, there you go. End to end, from designing something to cutting out some packaging, wrapping it up into a shipping box, and we're ready to go. So it really doesn't take that long. It's a good way to reuse materials that you would otherwise throw out. And it's a simple way to make sure that your items, your fragile items especially, get to where they're supposed to go in one piece. Anyway, as always, I'll post a video up here. Go watch that if you're interested. And if you do, I'll see you over there. Otherwise, go make your world. And now you know how to ship it as well. So I'll see you next time.